What's up, everybody? Me and Scott are going to battle it out to see who can recreate this crazy button with CSS. This is designed by Elvish Beldha from Dribbble. And I saw this thing. I was like, whenever I see a design like this, I'm like, I gotta re-implement this because that looks super fun. So we're going to give ourselves half an hour and see how far we can get. So what do you think, Scott? You ready to rock?
Oh, you know I'm ready to rock. This one's going to be really fun. We're not using our typical CSS battle platform. We're just going straight yellow on a really neat design. And me personally, this is the stuff I love. This is how I like to work. So I'm ready to go.
All right, so what I want to do is first get my stacking in order because I'm taking a look at this button right here, and there's several items to it, right? You have this gradient border in the background, and then you have this kind of glass, then you have this black one, and then finally you have this one around add to cart, right? So what I want to do is first get all of my selectors in place. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the button. I think actually, you know what? I'm also going to set up all my colors. Gray is that color. I'm going to make a padding variable, and I think that's good. I might just hard code the rest. Okay, so let's get rocking.
And the background is going to be a linear gradient. And I got to be honest, with the linear gradient syntax to bottom, I always goof up the two top, two bottom stuff. I feel like Copilot is going to be, I might turn it off halfway through this video, y'all, we'll see. Wes is making shapes with his hands, and Copilot's already driving me nuts. So we have our gradient. We're gonna have a border radius on this thing. We're gonna bump up the font size. Okay, so here's the button. And the text is going to have an opposite linear gradient. So it's also going to have a linear gradient, and the border radius on this one's gonna be much more severe on the text. So the text that I'm doing on the inside of this is going to be this inverse spot. This is going to be the button, and this is going to be a pseudo element. That's how I'm approaching this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use CSS grid to stack them on top of each other. And oh my gosh, its cursor is a bit aggressive. So I'm going to call it button. So stacking things in CSS, you might be going for absolute positioning. I'm sure Scott's doing that right now. But if you want to stack things on top of each other without having to fuss, you just use CSS grid with literally a 1x1 grid. I'm going to have a selector for each one, right? Before, after, put a little comment here that says this is going to be the gradient. The before is going to be the black button. The button itself is going to be the glass, and then the span with the class of text is going to be the black circle.
And the border radius for this inside one looks pretty fine. I'm gonna add a padding down here, and maybe even I'll bump the font size out again. It's just hard to work in this space and change the top and bottom padding to something like 15% or 15 pixels. Bingo, bango. Look at how close we've gotten already. There is a box shadow on the button itself, and this is a pretty light shadow. It looks like it goes down and not over at all. So we're gonna say it's 0. Yeah, 0 for the X. And I think this is probably something like 20 pixels. 20 pixels as well for the spread right now. We'll do RGB 000 /0.1 like this. So we can kind of see it's starting to match up a little bit more.
Why is my CSS not being applied? Oh, I forgot to save my index.html when I put the style.css in. Okay, we're in good shape. Okay, so after is a gradient. Before black button is going to be a gradient from gray to black. The grid area is button as well. Now we need some z indexes to start stacking everything. So the text z index is going to be 2. The black button z index 1. And then we're going to take that gradient and just reverse it, right? So it was gray to black, and we're just going to switch it from black to gray.
Oh man, there's some interesting stuff here. There's an interesting challenge with the conic gradient that I did not think about until now. The conic gradient in the example is actually rotating, which you might not see just from this image. It will rotate. So if I want to get that rotating in here, you're going to need the gradient itself to rotate and not the shape that the gradient is in, which will also, I might add another element. If we're being entirely honest, I might add another element. On hover, this example shows that the conic gradient ends up being underneath the button and not underneath this glass part. But in this, it firmly looks like the gradient is underneath the glass. We will say for the glass is going to be what color? It's going to be transparent, obviously. We're going to say it's an opacity of 0.3 for now, or 0.54 for now. Padding of like 10 pixels. It's going to be positioned absolute. Let's do this. Instead of height 100%, let's do inset 0 for now. Let's get rid of that padding entirely, and let's do something like an inset of negative 10 pixels. Perfect. This is always something I don't know. Pseudo elements and their stacking order. I feel like I'm always fighting with.
Let's work on this glass here. Background white, border radius. Let's make a Brad variable. And then this after is going to be slightly larger. Needs to scale up. Now, could I do that with a transform scale? Or should I literally just make it bigger? Let's try a transform 1.1. Yeah, that's better. I want to get this centered. Why did this not go centered? Oh, because I display grid on the button. It should be inline grid, so it stays centered. Okay. Font size, let's just bump it up just to match. Boom. Okay, man, we're doing great. What are we? We're 8 minutes in, and I'm like almost done. Almost done.
When you're dealing with padding and border radiuses, you'll want these things to be linked. If I want this border radius to be 15 pixels, which I might not, I want to change it. I'll also want this padding in this negative inset to be this variable here. So I think you need to calc var rad times -1. Does that do it for me? Okay, that does it for me. Cool. I want this border radius to be calc the var --rad inset is going to be -15 pix. And then the inset is going to be var --inset. And then I want this to be the rad plus the var of the inset to make sure that the border radius is what I need it to be. So why didn't that work? So we have an inset of because a -15 pixels needs to be positive times -1 to make this a positive. There we go. So you can see here that the border radius is now even to this, and I think that's how this demo button works.
Why is my rainbow in front of the glass? Let's do this. Let's make our glass actually look like glass. And now I need the gradient. I need the gradient to go behind everything, and I need it to also be bigger. My button is that wide. Oh, it's the padding on this button. You gotta add the padding onto it. Man, what am I doing with my life? The translate needs to be the offset plus the padding times -1. There we go. There we go.
The background is going to be a conic. Man, I could tell you that this is probably the first time I've ever used a conic gradient. So I think you can do yeah, you can. Okay, I'm looking at MDN. 45 deg, but let's just say from 0 deg. And we can have that start off, and we'll have the colors do blue, green, yellow, orange, red, etc. I'll fix the colors in a bit. And with this conic gradient, how the hell do you get it to this thing to be like a smooth transition? I think you have to do a filter blur. Guys, I have no clue. Okay. Hey. I just did it.
I get rid of that transform, it goes away. Oh, the transform changes the stacking context. Interesting. Let's just make this something silly, like 150%, just so we can see it. And then we'll do a Z index. There we go. Okay. Okay, now we're in good shape. but we want the width to be 100% plus the padding times 2. Good. And same with the height. And we want the border radius also be the same. And then we want to put a filter of a blur on it. Here we go. Oh, man. It doesn't look exactly it. And I wonder if it's just I just need to bring the opacity down. That looks pretty good. Okay.
The border here still really bugs me. We would have to add another span to the works, which sucks. It sucks to do that just for a gradient, but shit, I think that's going to be what we have to do. That sucks.
This black thing here needs a little bit of box shadow. It is not that much, but it is not going left to right. It's going down. Here, let's just make this 1 so we can see exactly where it is. So 10 pixels down. Maybe about 5 pixels of blur. No, 10 pixels of blur. No walk as far as I can see. And then we're just gonna make it pretty transparent. Yeah, a little bit too much of an X or Y value. Let's try that 8 pixels. Beautiful. Oh, it does look like there is a bit of a subtle shadow around the whole thing as well. So let's add a second box shadow, but that will be no walk on it. So yes.
This is going to require a little bit of surgery because the whole thing is a button. So even the glass is part of the button. We're going to have the cap. This is such a bad choice to make at this point in time. The button is now going to be the glass. That feels like such a difficult decision to make right now.
Let's start with we need two or 4 box shadows. We need a white one at the top. Let's go top, bottom, right, left. Negative 1 px, 0, 10 px blur, maybe 2 px blur, 0 walk, and then we'll do like white. Oh, that did it on the left. So I actually want the first value to be that. All right, that's looking good. So that's the top one.
What a major amount of surgery I'm doing here. So the Z index now should not be -1. That is part of what's causing the problem. There we go. Things are looking just a little bit better. Inset should be calc. I don't even know if this should have an inset of like 0 or something. It doesn't even need something fancy there. That looks a little bit better. The blur looks a little intense right now. The blur looks better now. I'm sorry, Scott. I just need to pat myself on the back here for making this complete and total makeover transition in the last waning minutes of this thing.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm overwriting my black variable, and that's why it's looking funny. So let's not use the variable black, because I'm using that in the gradient. Let's change that to black border. That's looking a bit better. Let me move that back to the end.
So this looks a massive amount better. For some reason, it does look like it's going to like a really dark color. Let's do CCC. I mean, that was so close. That's a good guess.
Watch, as I change the gradient, it just spins around like that. In order to do that, we need a keyframe, and I think we need a custom property. So let's put that at keyframes rainbow. Angle. We'll call it rainbow from 0 to 360. Then we need an at property with an angle syntax, and that will allow us to animate it. Watch, I'll show you how it doesn't work. If we were to add an animation, it doesn't work. Might have to go to Google for this one. I got 2 minutes. Oh, keyframes. Yes. Hell yeah. Got it. A little bit fast. Like 3 seconds. Yes. 1 minute. There was also a interaction on it. If I look at the original Dribbble. Oh, it's 12:30. I'm gonna check in with Scott.
Yo.
5 more minutes? Or what do you think? How you doing?
Did you do any of the interaction?
No interaction yet. I was just about to start the interaction. So take 10 to finish it up and then do interaction.
Oh, I was thinking 10 to finish it up with interaction because I'm really done.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. Scott gave me 10 more minutes because he's not doing very well. So when the button is active, can we just scale the whole thing down? Let's start with that. And when it is active, we are just going to scale it down. I know you're not supposed to do this, but I can't stand that this button doesn't have a little hand on it. There we go. Oh, the glass is the button, not the black. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, let's take that off the actual button and let's go to the black button, which is the before. So what we want to do is say :active and watch this. Scale 0.9. Oh no, including the text.
That looks pretty good. You know, it's still, I'm gonna have this impossible problem of stacking. You have the glass and you have this thing on top of it, and you have a linear gradient here. So you're still gonna have this kind of impossible task of how do you get this white shine on it. Oh, I am so dumb. You could do it this way. You could do it like 2%, and this initial one could be like very white, like that. And then it could transition like to 2% very quickly. Man, I'm spending way too much time on this part in particular.
Oh my gosh. I'm so confused. What if I built? This was not a good idea, my approach. The glass needs to stay the same size. Everything else needs to get smaller. Can I do that? So when it is active, take the before, after, and the text and scale it to 0.9. Oh! We didn't make any mistakes.
I need to get the interaction done. Now, the first thing I want to do before making this opacity much less, or after making this opacity much less, this is me like waffling here, not like having a hard time, but like going back and forth. And this one is much less, the interior one. I think it's much less to the point where many people probably aren't even going to notice it.
The gradient just gets a little bit more tight when it's in active state. So can we just change that? Is there a better way to do this? Maybe I should have used absolute positioning. You know what? We don't have much time, but should we change the values? So let's do blur 0 pixels, and then we'll go here and we'll make a blur value. Can we just change the padding value here? Yes. I'm freaking genius. This is why you do everything with variables. Because now all I have to do is just change the variable. Yes. Maybe even a little less. Let's try 6.9. That's it. That's it, my friends.
I need an animation. It's just going to be, we're going to rotate. Sorry, this is just copied and pasted. This is going to be just rotate. And you might not know this, but you can just do 2. You can do rotate and then say 360 deg. Is it animate, animation, animate? Like what? This, oh, brother, I have DevTools. It's obviously animation, and now it's rotating the conic. Oh, and I even said that very early on. You're gonna need the gradient itself to rotate and not the shape that the gradient is in.
Why is my scale value not transitioning? Oh, it's because they don't have a scale value to start with. Duh. Nope. That didn't work.
This is so funny because how easy I thought this was going to be. The animation should exist on the before of the button. Oh, it's animating. It's working. Huh. Huh. Okay, so this is my result.
Wow.
So what I have here is the keycap button. The keycap button, you can't see it has a slight rotation onto it. Overall, it's looking pretty dang close in terms of, not being able to overlay and stuff. It's glassy, it feels nice, and when you click it, that is a z-index issue I have been unable to account for. And really what's happening is the gradient pauses, it zooms in, and it becomes a little bit less blurry, it becomes tighter around the whole thing. I think I nailed this, honestly.
I think you did.
Yeah. So I made a custom app property to get the rotation going because that's how you animate. In fact, I even tried it first without. I did have to add another div here. So I did have to add, or another span. So I had to have the glass as the button, then the interior is the keycap, and then the span for the text. So I had to go another layer deep. The button itself, again, nothing too crazy here. I used just a background with a transparency. The gradient is a conic gradient, uses an animation. The border radius is always going to be kept in by the padding and stuff to make it nice and correct border radius for everything. I did put a blur on the conic gradient, which is a little bit of work to get it looking nice.
20px was the right amount, too. That's exactly what I did.
Nice. And then the glass part I found to be really hard because there's this border on the glass that goes from white to gray to white in a gradient.
Yes.
And I did that with a background of a linear gradient. But like dealing with those transparency values to still have this show up while not removing the glassiness of this was a major source of frustration for me, and the thing I spent the most amount of time on for some reason. There's a subtle box shadow on everything, so there's a box shadow on both.
Many box shadows.
The button and a box shadow on the glass. And then again, I duplicated the conic gradient, but ultimately I think this one needs to be gone, and that is that. The interior was super easy, just a text with some padding, and that's it.
My code is almost exactly the same.
Yes. You know what?
So
I was wondering about that. Sometimes we approach these things very differently.
Yeah, here we go. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
I did not do the double gradient because when you click it, even though it is behind the glass, I did not find that it...
I think you're right. That's the right call.
I did not find that I think that looks exactly like the video. So I was pretty happy with that.
That's the right call.
The glass was probably the trickiest for me as well to get these subtle little borders.
Yes.
What the move for that is to actually put an entire gradient and then mask off the entire button except for 1 pixel. That's how they do those borders that sort of wrap around as an animation.
So you have like
an
interior mask for it. Is that what it's doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't end up doing that. I ended up just using box shadow, and I think I pretty much got it. It's not exactly.
Oh, box shadow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a way smarter idea. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think about that.
You do box shadow for everything. I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Honestly, ours were so stinking close. And the major difference was position absolute versus position grid. And
display grid.
Grid, right. Yeah, I don't know if you can declare a winner or loser here.
Comments are going to have to tell us. I think it's going to come up to who was the most entertaining to watch, because I think we both nailed the implementation.
Let us know what you thought about this. If you had a novel solution to this, let us know. I might even keep tweaking mine before I publish the final one here, where I'm just going to copy it.
You're a tweaker, Scott.
Yeah, I'm tweaking. Let us know what you think about this. If you want to see more of these types of UI competitions, I think these are great because this is real world stuff that people are building, and now you know how to build it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment below. Give us your solutions. Peace.
Peace.